The night is silent, yet heavy, as if the very air is holding its breath, carrying the weight of a confession that no lips dare to speak. Imagine the dim glow of a candle trembling in the corner of a stone chamber, its small flame flickering against walls that have heard countless whispers of guilt. That fragile light bends and dances, as if it already knows the truth you are trying to bury. This is where St. Augustine begins his warning. He does not point first to the sins shouted in the open square, the crimes that echo through history, or the scandals carved into memory. No, he directs our gaze toward the hidden sin, the one you cradle in the silence of your thoughts, the one you feed when no eyes are watching, the one that locks chains around your soul, while the world sees only the mask of your smile. Augustine knew this darkness because he had lived in it. In his Confessions, he tore his soul open for the world to see, exposing wounds most men would rather take to the grave. He spoke of desires that seemed harmless, pleasures that looked small, but when left to fester in the dark, they grew into chains more unbreakable than iron. He compared them to thefts, not the theft of gold or silver, but of moments stolen from the truth, a stolen glance, a thought of lust disguised as admiration, the silent satisfaction of seeing another stumble, the pride that wraps itself in humility. These sins, Augustine said, are invisible in the eyes of men, yet in the eyes of eternity, they are the deepest fractures of the soul. Ask yourself this: what destroys faster, a visible wound that gushes blood before all, or an invisible poison slowly spreading through your veins? The hidden sin is that poison. You can smile through envy. You can laugh while burning with greed. You can stand in the temple while your heart bows to lust. No one sees the corruption. No one hears the whispers of pride in your mind. But Augustine warns, these sins dig silent tunnels under the foundation of your life. They weaken the unseen ground beneath your feet. One day, without warning, the surface collapses, and you find yourself falling into a pit you yourself have carved. To Augustine, hell was not only a distant fire waiting beyond the grave, it was a reality already germinating inside the soul. When you allow chains of secret sin to tighten, you begin to taste that inferno now. The man who jokes loudly but cries in silence has already stepped into it. The woman who prays with words but curses in her heart is already burning within. The preacher who preaches purity while feeding secret desire is already chained. The businessman who shakes hands in daylight but lies in darkness is already sinking. The hidden sin does not discriminate. It waits in every life, in every heart, in every silence. Picture this carefully. You walk freely, yet in the unseen realm your wrists are bound. The crowd admires your steps, but Augustine whispers that each step drags chains forged by your own secret choices. And the cruelest deception of all is this: the chain does not look like a chain at first. It looks like pleasure. It feels like comfort. It tastes like relief. It looks like freedom, like control, like the power to keep something for yourself. But only later do you see it for what it is: a shackle that locks you in place, keeping you far from light, far from God, far from peace. This is why Augustine trembled not at armies or swords, but at his own heart. For the enemy outside can only wound the flesh, but the enemy within the hidden sin chains the soul, and a soul chained to its own shadow is already burning, already enslaved, already living in its own private hell. The hidden sin is not a whisper to be ignored. It is a serpent coiled in silence, waiting for the moment you think you are safe to strike. It is the shadow that grows as long as you refuse to face it. It is the echo in the silence, the hunger that will not be satisfied, the thirst that no pleasure can quench. In Augustine's vision, to ignore this sin is to walk willingly toward fire while convincing yourself you are safe in the dark. The man who hides his lust and calls it love is already scorched. The woman who hides her bitterness and calls it wisdom is already chained. The friend who hides envy and calls it ambition is already drowning in the flames of his own deception. This is the hidden sin, the one that you excuse, the one you rename, the one you think small enough to control. But it is never small. It grows, it spreads, it consumes, and in Augustine's words, It drags you not only to hell after death, but into hell now, while your body still breathes. You think freedom is the absence of rules. You think liberty means doing what you desire, whenever you desire, without anyone's eyes upon you. But Augustine whispers from the shadows, that is the greatest illusion. The hidden sin disguises itself as freedom. It feels like you are choosing, but in truth, you are being chosen. You believe you hold the reins, when in fact the reins tighten around your own neck. Picture a man holding a golden cup. It gleams in the firelight. The liquid inside tastes sweet, intoxicating. He drinks, smiling, convinced he is in control. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, his hand cannot release the cup. His fingers tighten even when he tries to let go. His lips tremble, but the cup demands another sip. What began as choice has now become slavery. This, Augustine says, is how hidden sin works. Pleasure is the bait, desire is the hook, and hell is the chain. The hidden sin always promises comfort. Lust promises warmth and loneliness. Envy promises justice against those who seem ahead of you. Pride promises strength when you feel small. Bitterness promises protection against wounds that still bleed. And so you take these promises, believing they shield you. But Augustine shouts across the centuries, these are not shields. They are shackles disguised as blessings. They do not protect you. They imprison you. And what is most terrifying is that no one around you can see the prison. You smile at church, you laugh with friends, you shake hands in the office, and everyone thinks you are free. But within, in the hidden chamber of your soul, the chains rattle every time you are alone. That is why Augustine confessed openly, because he knew silence was the soil where sin grows strongest. What you hide, you feed. What you hide, you serve. And what you serve, you become. Imagine walking through a desert. The sun burns your skin. The sand cuts your feet. You are thirsty, desperate for water. Then you see an oasis, clear pools shimmering, trees offering shade. You run toward it, your heart pounding with hope. But when you kneel to drink, the water turns to dust in your hands. It looked real. It felt real. But it was only a mirage. The hidden sin is the mirage. It promises refreshment, relief, escape. But when you drink deeply, you taste only emptiness, and the thirst becomes worse than before. Augustine reveals that this is the true torment of hidden sin. It does not satisfy. It multiplies hunger. It does not heal wounds. It tears them wider. It does not give strength. It weakens. Each secret indulgence feels like fire that warms you for a moment, but leaves ashes that choke your lungs. Each silent envy feels like a spark of justice, but burns the very hands that hold it. Each whisper of pride lifts you for a second, but drops you into deeper humiliation. And so the soul becomes a battlefield invisible to the world. Outwardly, you may look whole, but inwardly, Augustine would tell you, the soul is being pulled into directions toward God's grace and toward the abyss of self-indulgence. And the hidden sin always whispers louder in silence. It calls to you in the night, when no one watches. It clings to you in the morning, before you put on the mask of respectability. And every time you listen, another chain forms, another link tightens, another step is taken deeper into the inferno. Hell, for Augustine, was not flames licking at the skin. It was desire that could never be quenched. It was a thirst eternal, a hunger infinite, a longing that mocked you with promises it never fulfilled. That is why the hidden sin is more dangerous than the open crime. The criminal at least knows his guilt, but the hidden sinner convinces himself he is righteous while the chains grow heavier. He smiles in public while suffocating in secret, and in that suffocation, Augustine saw the smoke of hell already rising. So let this picture burn in your mind. A soul chained in a dungeon not built by devils, but by itself. The keys were always in your hands, yet you chose to clutch the chains instead. You did not see the prison because it was disguised as pleasure. You did not hear the locks because they clicked softly in the silence of your heart. This is the genius of hidden sin. It makes you think you are free until one day you wake and realize you are already in hell, and the fire you feel is not coming from outside, it is rising from within. There is a silence darker than any scream, a silence where no voice of comfort can reach, no light breaks through, no hand touches your soul. Augustine called this the true essence of hell, not simply fire, not merely torment, but the absence of grace. Imagine a world where every door to heaven is shut, not by God, but by your own refusal to open them. That, he said, is the prison of hidden sin. Grace, for Augustine, was the only force strong enough to break the chains of secret desire. But the hidden sin convinces you that you do not need grace. It whispers, you are fine, you are strong, you are in control. And so you push grace away, little by little, until the light becomes dim, until the warmth fades, until you live in shadows you once thought were safe. And when the grace is gone, you begin to feel it not at once, but slowly, like the oxygen draining from a sealed room. Think of a man trapped in a deep cave. At first, he still breathes easily. He still sees the faint glow of the torch. But as the air grows thinner, as the flame burns lower, he feels the weight pressing down. Panic comes too late. The door has long been closed. This is what hidden sin does. It does not kill suddenly. It suffocates. It lets you laugh, sing, and even pray, while beneath it all, the last breath of grace is being stolen from you. And when it is gone, when the soul is left with only itself, Augustine says the soul becomes its own executioner. For what is man without grace? A prisoner to his own cravings, a slave to his own pride, a shadow of what he was created to be. Augustine knew this because he lived it. He had chased pleasure, knowledge, ambition, believing they would make him free. But the more he fed his hunger, the more hollow he became. He discovered that the worst chains are not those placed upon you by others, but those you lock upon yourself. Chains of lust, chains of ambition, chains of self-worship. And the torment is not only that you are chained, it is that you cannot break them by yourself. You pull, you fight, you scream, but the iron holds, and worse, part of you does not even want to let go. The sin has become your comfort, your identity, your secret refuge. To release it would feel like losing yourself. And so the chains grow heavier, and the silence of grace grows louder. This, Augustine warned, is the greatest danger, to mistake chains for freedom and to call darkness light. To live without grace is to live in a hall of mirrors, where every reflection deceives you, where every step takes you deeper into yourself and farther from the truth. And the deeper you go, the more suffocating the air becomes, until one day, you awaken not in the light of dawn, but in the endless night of your own creation. Picture it, a city without a sun. Streets without laughter, hearts without love. Everything still stands, but everything is empty. This is the soul without grace. Augustine called it the city of man, where pride replaces worship, where hidden sin replaces truth, where desire replaces peace. And within this city, each citizen lives chained, thinking himself free, but actually building the walls of his own prison higher each day. Hell, then, is not merely punishment after life. Hell is the withdrawal of grace, the hollow echo of a heart left only with itself. And a heart left to itself will devour itself. It will feed on desire until desire becomes fire. It will feed on pride until pride becomes torment. It will feed on fear until fear becomes an endless night. That is why Augustine trembled at the thought of hidden sin, not because it shocked the world, but because it separated the soul from the only source of freedom. So when you feel the silence pressing on your soul, when your prayers seem to bounce back like stones, when your heart feels heavy though no one knows why, remember Augustine's words: the absence of grace is not neutral. It is not rest. It is the shadow of hell beginning to surround you. And in that moment, the chains of hidden sin do not just bind your body. They close the very windows of heaven, leaving you alone with your darkest self. There is a moment when the chains feel unbearable. The weight presses on your chest, the silence suffocates you. The hidden sin you once called comfort has become a devouring fire. And in that moment, Augustine says, the soul faces its most terrifying choice: remain in the prison it built, or cry out for a grace it cannot control. Augustine believed that no man can break his own chains. Desire cannot cure desire. Pride cannot kill pride. A heart cannot heal itself while it still loves its sickness. He knew, because he tried. He confessed how he whispered to God, "Make me pure, but not yet." How many of us live with that same prayer, wanting freedom, but not ready to release the chains, wanting light, but still addicted to the darkness? That is the paradox of the hidden sin. It convinces you to delay freedom one more night, one more glance, one more secret, until delay becomes destiny. But Augustine also declared a hope that shook the shadows. He said that even in the darkest dungeon, there is a crack through which light can enter. Grace is the light. It is not earned, not bought, not manufactured. It is given. And the moment you stop pretending you are strong, the moment you admit you are a prisoner, the light begins to burn through the iron. Chains that seemed eternal begin to tremble. The silence that suffocated begins to break with a whisper, "You are not alone." Imagine it, a man on his knees in the dark. The chains around his wrists are tight, the air is heavy, the shadows laugh. But then, from nowhere, light bursts through the cracks. The iron softens, the chains fall. He stands, trembling, not because he freed himself, but because grace broke what he never could. This was Augustine's confession, that the hell of hidden sin is real, but so is the power that shatters it. Yet he also warned freedom is not the end of the war. The shadows never vanish completely. The hidden sin does not stop whispering simply because grace has come. It will wait. It will offer new disguises, new comforts, new masks. That is why Augustine spoke of vigilance, of constant confession, of living as though the dungeon is always just a step behind. The fight is daily. The battle is relentless, but the light is stronger. So what is the hidden sin that chains you? Is it lust you pretend is love? Pride you dress as humility? Envy you rename as ambition? Augustine forces you to look at it without disguise. He drags the serpent into the light. He reminds you that the chain you hide will become the prison you cannot escape. But he also tells you this: even in the prison you built, the door is not locked forever. Grace can shatter iron. Light can burn through shadow. And here is the final warning. The longer you delay, the heavier the chains become. The longer you call it comfort, the deeper the poison seeps. Augustine's voice reaches across centuries, whispering and thundering at once. Do not wait until tomorrow to break the silence. Tomorrow is how hell grows. The hidden sin is the path to your own inferno. Grace is the only key, and the choice is always now.